All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at something that is probably sitting in your pantry right now and how it can literally rewire the biology of hunger and sugar cravings. It's this wild intersection of ancient culinary traditions and cutting edge metabolic medicine. You know that 3 p.m. crash, right? Out of nowhere, you are just completely overwhelmed by the need for sugar, and we usually beat ourselves up over it, calling it a lack of discipline. Well, you can stop doing that because clinical research completely reframes this. It's not a character flaw, it is a biological cascade. Your blood sugar spikes after a meal, it inevitably crashes, and that triggers a massive hormonal response demanding high-calorie foods to bring glucose back up. So, here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, the anatomy of hunger. Then, how cinnamon actually hacks that appetite. Third, the critical difference between cassia and Ceylon cinnamon. And finally, safe dosing and practical use. Starting with part 1, the anatomy of hunger. Think of your hormones on a seesaw. And this is literally what that seesaw looks like. When we're talking about weight-gaining cravings, there's a very specific hormonal shift happening. On one side, your satiety hormones, stuff like insulin, leptin, GLP-1, the signals that tell your brain, hey, we're full, those drop. On the other side, your orexigenic or hunger-driving hormones shoot up. The scales just completely tip toward overeating. Your body is biologically driving you to eat more and burn less. And the absolute heavy hitter on that seesaw? Ghrelin. Produced right there in your stomach, this is the infamous hunger hormone. When your stomach empties out or your blood sugar crashes, ghrelin levels absolutely spike. And the kicker is, it doesn't make you crave broccoli. It acts directly on the brain's reward centers to drive relentless cravings for high-fat, high-sugar foods. So beating cravings really comes down to keeping ghrelin in check.
Which brings us to part 2, how cinnamon hacks appetite. This is the hormonal bridge.
Look, recent 2024 and 2025 clinical trials are super clear. Cinnamon isn't some magic fat-burning pill. What it actually is a highly sophisticated metabolic modulator. And it suppresses hunger through 3 very specific steps. First, it slows gastric emptying. It keeps food in your stomach longer, so you literally feel fuller longer. Second, it vastly improves insulin sensitivity. Your cells absorb glucose way more efficiently, which totally prevents those sharp blood sugar spikes and crashes. And third, because that blood sugar is stable, cinnamon actively lowers postprandial ghrelin. Your biological drive to snack is significantly blunted.
Let's zoom in a bit, because to really get the power of this spice, you have to look at its primary bioactive compound, cinnamaldehyde. When human adipocytes, our fat cells, are exposed to this stuff in a lab, they actually undergo a metabolic reprogramming. They start expressing genes and enzymes that promote thermogenesis, fat burning. So cinnamon isn't just telling your brain you're full, its active compounds are literally encouraging your fat cells to burn energy instead of hoarding it. But hold on, before you run to the pantry and dump the spice rack into your morning coffee, there is a massive narrative twist here. Part 3, cassia versus Ceylon cinnamon, the vital catch.
Honestly, this is probably the most important takeaway of the whole explainer. Not all cinnamon is created equal, especially when it comes to your liver. Cassia is the stuff you almost certainly have in your kitchen right now. It's cheap, it's everywhere, and it's loaded with a compound called coumarin, up to 1% or more by weight. Ceylon cinnamon, the true cinnamon, is pricier and harder to find, but it only contains trace amounts of coumarin. Why does this matter? Because chronic high intake of coumarin is highly hepatotoxic. It can cause serious liver damage. To put that into perspective, 0.1 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is the European Food Safety Authority's safe daily limit for coumarin. For an average adult, that is an incredibly tiny amount. The scary reality is that you can blow completely past that toxic threshold with just 1 or 2 teaspoons of standard cassia cinnamon a day. If you're going to use this daily to hack your hunger, using cassia is actively putting your liver at risk. You absolutely must seek out Ceylon cinnamon.
Okay, let's get into part 4, safe dosing and practical use. The clinical reality.
So how do we actually do this safely? Clinical trials usually hit a sweet spot of between 1 to 6 grams of Ceylon daily. That's roughly half a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons split up throughout the day. The absolute best time to take it is first thing in the morning or right before a meal to maximize that delayed gastric emptying. And a huge disclaimer here, if you have liver impairment, if you're pregnant, or if you take blood thinners like warfarin, you have to skip the high doses. Cinnamon has natural antiplatelet effects, so it can interact dangerously with those meds.
If you are cleared to use it, let's talk practical integration. Please don't choke down a spoonful of dry powder. Just stir a gram of Ceylon into your morning oatmeal or yogurt. Or steep a whole cinnamon stick in hot water or tea. You still extract the beneficial polyphenols without heavy coumarin exposure. Toss it in a post-workout smoothie, or even use it in savory dishes like curries or tagines. It genuinely doesn't just have to be for sweet treats.
It really makes you look at your kitchen cabinet totally differently, doesn't it? By improving insulin sensitivity and slowing down digestion, the right type of cinnamon can genuinely turn down the volume on your appetite. So it leaves us with this incredible thought. Could the absolute most potent pharmacological tools for metabolic health just be hiding in plain sight in our culinary traditions? Definitely something to chew on next time that 3 p.m. craving hits.